Well, last week, President Trump issued a sweeping NIL executive order, but Mississippi's own law directly conflicts with it. What could that mean for Mississippi State and all colleges in the state? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
For making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Jaron Spor. I'm with Athlon Sports, covering college football. That's Landon McBride. We've got a packed show for you today. Lots to talk about, including the SEC media poll has come out. Where does Mississippi State rank? We're going to talk about that. Practice starts on Thursday. What are we looking forward to the most? We'll also discuss that as well. But we got to start out with the executive order that President Donald Trump signed this past week. As I said on Monday's episode, Landon and I were I was obviously gone last week, so Landon and I did some pre-recorded stuff going over like different position breakdowns, coaches breakdowns, things like that. And so this was a topic that we weren't able to discuss last week, so we had to do it this week. So basically what the executive order does is a couple things. It prohibits pay for play via third parties. So that could be collectives, boosters, outside groups. They cannot directly pay players simply for joining or playing at a school. It also restricts NIL deals tied to recruiting commitments. Players can still make NIL money, but not as a direct incentive to sign with the program. And it requires transparency. So schools and athletes must disclose NIL agreements to regulatory bodies. So as I mentioned in the intro, Mississippi has a law that kind of conflicts with this, but let's dive into that part first. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's kind of along the lines of the same thing every time there's a rule about this. Who's enforcing this? And how are they going to enforce all of it? And a lot of what is in this sounds good. You know, the one part of it that I liked was that it's kind of going to, in a way, help some of the non-revenue generating sports, like the little bit smaller sports, which I do like. I think that is a concern for a lot of people, that this whole paying people is going to kind of help wash out those sports a little bit. So if this order in any way helps save, some of like the golf, the wrestling, some of those types of sports, that's great. I don't know if it will. I don't know what any of this is going to do because it's an executive order. And yes, for lack of a better term, it's a law, but It's not like it's really a law. I guess, it's in that gray area. Like there's so many executive orders. Like this is his 176th executive order. So they're all just kind of being thrown out there, and who's going to enforce this? What's it really going to do? That's kind of where I am on it.
Yeah, it's going to do a couple positive things. I mean, it's going to limit booster-led collectives. So like many of the best programs, they kind of rely on the booster-funded NIL collectives to kind of bring in some talent. It also, in theory, is going to level the recruiting field. I mean, I still think there's going to be some stuff behind the scenes under the table.
Going back under the table like it was before.
Right. But in theory, it helps with that. And that means programs with smaller budgets, they might have a better chance to kind of compete without the NIL incentives. It kind of shifts NIL back to brand deals. They will still earn from sponsorships or merchandise and appearances, but it's not as disguised as a recruitment bonuses, basically, is the best way to put it. So that's what's some of the positives. But the negatives are, this isn't going to be over yet, because there's going to be a lot of legal challenges along the way. There's going to be a lot of lawsuits from states, from collectives. I think you're even going to see some players file some lawsuits. So I think it's going to be a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to be a while before we really see what this does, what this leads to, what actually happens, because like we mentioned, Mississippi has a rule that, is pretty much in opposition of this. And unless there is a federal law that is, goes hand in hand with this order, states can follow their laws. Like they don't have to follow the executive order. So it's kind of that weird ground of, in theory, this is good, but what is it? Yeah, it falls into everything else the NCAA does. This sounds good, but what is it really going to do?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am. Like you mentioned, in theory, all of those things sound great, leveling the playing field. But I mean, before what was it? Before NIL,
Yeah.
playing field was supposedly level, but we knew people got paid, so it's gonna be
Right.
the same kind of thing. So I mean, this is kind of a lip service type thing. Like you're trying to do something, but there's really no teeth to what's happening.
The one thing I think it could do really well, but it's going to be a long-term solution. It's going to take some time. I think it could finally push Congress to establish a federal NIL law, and I think that's where it's headed. And this has kind of pushed us that way, and I think that's a big positive. So we'll see what ends up happening with that, but I think that's what's going to be the long-term play at the end. But one thing I wanted to get into was, some states have NIL laws that kind of conflict with this order, and Mississippi is one of those states. Their NIL law was enacted in 2021, and it allows colleges athletes to profit from their name, image, and likeness. The law explicitly permits third-party compensation, including for booster-funded collectives, as long as it's not directly orchestrated by the school. It does not prohibit pay-for-play arrangements as clearly as the NCAA guidelines do, which is how collectives in the state of Mississippi have legally operated. So there's some conflicting things. If it bans third-party pay-for-play compensation, that would directly contradict Mississippi's law.
Yes. Yeah, so that gets into that realm of, yes, it contradicts it. And typically, like I said, unless there's a federal law, states go with state law. But so it's in that gray area once again, where it could change things, but most likely Mississippi goes with their own laws because that's just kind of how things tend to go. What you mentioned is really the point, I think, that can be taken away from this is forcing Congress to create some kind of law, governing body, something like that, or putting enough pressure on the NCAA and college football itself to create like a legitimate governing body that actually has some power and some level of overarching organization to kind of shepherd everything, that it's all going the same direction. Because right now you got a bunch of people pulling a bunch of different directions and everyone keeps trying to go their own direction, and it's just a mess.
Yeah, and the thing is, obviously, with this federal law, it trumps no pun intended, it trumps the state law. So they would have to follow the federal law, but that's why I think there's going to be lawsuits out of that, because the states are going to sue because if they have a law that contradicts with it. And so I just think there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen out of this that is just not being announced right now, obviously, but we've seen anytime politics try to jump into sports, and especially with NIL, they're getting sued and lawsuits and court hearings and all this, and all that's getting turned back to where it was. So it's just, I don't know. We're just in a gray area that it doesn't feel like this is going to conclude anytime soon. I love the idea behind it. I love what it could potentially do, but as of right now, there's just so many question marks.
Right. There's so many question marks. And yes, if there's a federal law, the state has to follow it, but executive order is not like a law. It's more like it's like a glorified suggestion, honestly. So, I mean, states don't have to follow those. So unless there's a federal law passed, they can choose to kind of go against it. Now, I mean, the federal government could probably try to make them do it, but I don't think that would actually go very far with this, because who's going to fight that hard with everything else going on? But there are some good things within this bill. It's just who's going to enforce it, how is it going to be implemented? There's just too many question marks at this point. So, I mean, like he does, calling it Donald Trump saves college sports. I mean, that's very on brand for him. But again, we're just adding more ink spilled to everyone trying to do the same thing without anyone actually being in charge.
Yeah, and the one thing I will give props to is at least he's trying something, which is more than we can say for a lot of people. That's been the frustrating thing, is everyone knows there's a problem, and you're not hearing many people offer up solutions to fix the problems. And I know there's so many legal matters as to why they can't offer a solution on several things, but it just feels like something has to be done. And a big thing is you have to have a governing body And everyone will say, well, that's the NCAA. No, it's really not. They haven't been able to do it. And anytime they try to implement stuff, it gets sued and gets turned around. Like, there needs to be a governing body. There needs to be a CBA agreement. And then you're going to have a player union. Like, there's just a bunch of stuff. They just have to basically adopt the NFL model of it being a professional sport. That's really what they got to do.
Yeah, they have to do that. There has to be some rules in place. There has to be a college football commissioner. If not, just a college sports commissioner. They got to do something because it's getting out of hand.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, coming up next, we're going to talk about the SEC media poll. Where was Mississippi State voted to finish? We'll talk about that. That's coming up next. Well, time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. I love playing golf. I don't get to play it as much as I would like. I did play it the day before my wedding. Things did not go well. It was the first time I played in like almost a year, or second time I played in like almost a year. And I think I shot in the 100s. There wasn't a lot of birdies, definitely no hole-in-ones. I don't think there was a lot of pars on the course that day. But my favorite thing is just getting around all my friends and all my friends that were in the wedding party. They got to play with me. That's my favorite thing about golf. We've done it since high school, and it's just a lot of fun. We'll get a great way for us to get together. But golf is also all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the beverage cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5, and then ourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, so the SEC media poll every year, every time media days happens for all different conferences, the media gets together. They vote on the all-conference teams, the order of where they think each team will finish. They do all that. And so the media poll was out, and Mississippi State comes in at number 16 once again.
Yeah, it's not surprising. I mean, it's kind of getting old seeing us at the bottom every time. I'd kind of wish someone would be a little bold and be like, no, 15.
Yeah, I mean, every now and then we'll see Kentucky behind us, which is what Landon and I both think will happen. But, yeah, it's a lot of 16s.
It's a lot of 16, and you're looking at the little points from the votes. Mm-hmm. Man, it's not even close.
Right. I mean, that is a little surprising.
That's surprising to me because you'd figure. I mean, I legitimately think Kentucky is a worse team. Now, I've said it a million times they could end up with the better record because they have the easier schedule. Yep. But the fact that it is that big of a gap in the voting is crazy, and the fact that they have Arkansas that far ahead of Kentucky is shocking too. Because I think those three teams are the same tier. I mean, flip a coin on who's actually better.
Yeah, Arkansas is a little over 400 points ahead of Mississippi State. Kentucky's almost 200. For those, if you haven't looked it up, 343 for Mississippi State, 512 for Kentucky. So they're not thinking it's going to be that close. I mean, again, not surprising,
right?
Because of the year you just had, and while you have added some things and you're optimistic about the stuff you've added, your schedule is brutal, and it's just, it's just going to be a season that, like Landon said, like we think we're better than Kentucky, but the record at the end of the year might not show you're better. One positive, though, Isaac Smith was named third team all defense for the SEC. So that if you want to take any positives away, there's that. But yeah, is there anything else on the poll? I mean, again, we're so used to seeing Mississippi State at 16 or at the bottom, and so it's not a surprising thing.
Yeah.
But I noticed the media is very high on Florida, has them all the way at number 6. A lot of people are buying into the Gatorade, really. They're buying into that. They're low. It's funny because we trashed the Iron Bowl a little bit. Auburn, they have it 11, and I think Auburn's going to be pretty good this year. I can see Auburn finishing in the top 8.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we mentioned, I also think Auburn's one of those teams with a lot of volatility that if they finish, in the top 4 or 5, I won't be surprised. But if they're also down at like 10 or 11, I also wouldn't be surprised there, just because I think they have such a wide range of outcomes.
Right.
I think A&M kind of surprised me a little bit. I feel like the hype train was really running high for them, but the SEC poll, they're right in the middle.
Right in the middle. Yeah.
So I think that's actually probably about where they finish unless things really break their way. So I was kind of surprised to see that just from how that hype train was just about to go off the rails with how it was running for a while.
Yeah, and another thing is Texas has now entered the territory where despite however many players they lose and key players, so they're like 105 or something like that in returning production, they're getting the benefit of the doubt that Sark has built something special there that they think is something special there. It's obviously not special till you win a national championship, but they think they've built something special there to where they're now getting the benefit of the doubt. They're probably getting an Arch Manning bump as well to get that number 1 ranking in the poll. But to be fair, there's a lot of question marks with the teams after him. Georgia lost a bunch, and let's be honest, Gunnar Stockton's not the quarterback Arch Manning is. And then Alabama obviously really struggled last year, so there's a lot of question marks that for Alabama's standard, they struggled last year. So there's some question marks there. I really like LSU, but I get why you don't fully buy into them being number 1. And then, there's question marks with a bunch of teams after them. So I understand why Texas is number 1. And then they also have a fairly easy schedule as well. I mean, I'm talking about in conference. Obviously, they go to Ohio State out of conference. They also have to go to Georgia in conference. So those are the 2 tough ones. But I get that now Texas is perceived as this team that year in, year out is just going to keep reloading instead of rebuilding.
Yeah, and they're really set up. If these players hit their potential, which is a big if on some of those guys, they haven't. We saw it last year. A lot of explosive receivers. Right. Yes, they lost a couple of them to the NFL, but there were guys that played that still very good, still there. Right. But yeah, you mentioned it. Yes, I do think Arch Manning's going to be a very good quarterback, but the amount of greatness that is already perceived that he has is a little bit shocking. And just looking at this poll, out of the top 10 teams on here, the only one with a quarterback I would say I legitimately trust is LSU.
Yeah. I like Lenore Sellers a lot, so I'm a little bit of a buyer into him more than some people.
I mean, I think he could be very good, but
no, you're right. Nussmeier is really the only one. And if you think, if you look through this, Georgia's a new quarterback, Texas new quarterback, Georgia new quarterback, Alabama new quarterback, LSU we believe in. Sellers had a really good redshirt freshman season, but I understand why the hesitancy's there. DJ Lagway started some games. Obviously, he's back. A lot of hype around him. Ole Miss new quarterback. A&M Reed Cook over at the end, but still a lot of question marks there.
So much.
Right. Joey Aguilar now with Tennessee. That's a new quarterback. OU has a new quarterback. John Mateers had a really good year last year, but that's a new quarterback.
He played, started college football for the year.
Right.
So,
Jackson Arnold started at Auburn or at Oklahoma, but he wasn't good. Now he's at Auburn. Missouri new quarterback. Vanderbilt returns quarterback in Diego Pavia. Arkansas returns Taylor Green. And then Kentucky new quarterback, and then obviously Mississippi State new quarterback, or basically new quarterback because Shapen only started 4 games. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. They're kind of sold on Arch. The one thing I will say about Arch, and I don't want this to be put out there they're just trying to talk about Arch to get clicks and stuff, because that's not.
Yeah, we're going to talk about our Arch. We'll put Trump on the thumbnail. We're getting all the clicks.
We'll do it all. My one hesitancy on Arch is people hype up that 3-4 game stretch that he had where he filled in for years. I think it was 3 games. Filled in for years and then started. And he was great in that stretch. I don't want to take that away. But it was against UTSA. We know how terrible Mississippi State defense was. And we went 2-10 last year. And I can't even remember the other team. But also
Louisiana.
Oh, yeah, Louisiana Monroe. That's your 3
Yeah.
games.
And
That's
did he throw 2 picks against?
yes. Yeah, he did. And the only other game that he was kind of thrown in when the game was close and it wasn't just like a run package. It was like, okay, let's see if you can give us a spark, was the Georgia game. He was awful and ended up fumbling, and Georgia scored on that drive right before halftime, and then he got yanked and didn't play again. So we've only seen him play one good team where he got at least an opportunity to play when the game was close, and he was terrible in that game. Now, I don't think he's going to be terrible. I think he's going to be really good, but I do think people are they're just assuming he's going to come in, going to be great all year, not going to have these bumps in the road, but he's such a young still. I mean, I know he's in his 3rd year, but because he hasn't started a lot of games, he's still young in his career. Yeah. And so I don't think it's just going to be smooth sailing like a lot of people think. And I could definitely see him going up to Ohio State, laying an egg, everyone say he's a bust, and then him have a really good season. I could totally see that happening.
Oh, yeah. Especially because that'll be one of his. I mean, obviously, the Georgia game was almost a road game, but not a true road game. Like, it wasn't in their stadium. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him going up there and just it being a rougher, because I think they got a lot of new starters on the O-line too. So that could be very rough early in the season for them. But I wouldn't write him off. I just don't understand the hype just yet. I like to see a little more proof before I start hyping people.
Well, and Mississippi State's going to get to see him again. So we'll see what happens in that game. But yeah, not surprising where Mississippi State is. I understand it. But all right, fall practice starts
practice
Thursday. We're talking about practice. Let's talk about it. That's coming up next. All right. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right. So fall practice, like I said, it starts on Thursday. Landon, what are you looking forward to the most?
Just it's starting in general. It's it's that last hurdle. But for an on-field perspective, it really comes down to the 2 lines. Yeah. Is the offensive line improved, and is the defensive line improved? Because if both of those things take a step forward, this team will get better.
Yeah. You didn't get to do Monday's episode with me, but I actually disagreed with you because you, on your top dog of the week, you said to the fans, because the worst part of the season's sports calendar is over. I believe August is the worst part, because fall camp starts and now you got to wait 3 or 4 weeks before the first game. And so it just sucks waiting all that time.
But you have practice notes and you can start really getting into the hype. It's that last check mark.
Yes. The thing I'm most interested in, obviously we've talked about the lines a lot, and that's going to determine the season. The wide receiver room, a lot of question marks there. Brennan Thompson obviously got the nod to go to media days. We've heard a lot. They raved a lot about Anthony Evans at media days. So you got some positives there. Jordan Mosley back. Like, there's some things to be excited about, but I want to see it, because I have gone back, read some of the stuff that Oklahoma was saying about Brennan Thompson, and it was a lot of the same stuff. Like, hey, we think he's ready to take this step. He's learned all the routes now. Like, he's good. He didn't have a good season, and he was the starter the whole year because the top 5 were out, and he didn't play well. Now, no one on the offense played well for them, so I understand it, but I want to see it. I'm ready to see it, and I'm ready to, start hearing how the wide receiver room and the quarterback rooms are connecting and starting to play, more together.
Yeah, and I'm also ready for the one highlight reel play that Camario Taylor makes every practice. That's going to get blown up on Twitter and just fuel that hype train, because that one's ready to get going.
I've already a little side note. So Landon and I started a college football dynasty. We haven't actually got to start the season yet, but I picked Mississippi State before he could snag him. And I already moved Camario Taylor up to my number 2, and I was very tempted on putting him into the starting lineup just so I could run wild on everyone. So
that speed's gonna go crazy.
Yeah, so I'm ready to see his highlights too. That'll be a lot of fun. But the one exciting thing, like you said, it marks the start of, hey, this is the month that season starts. There's some decent week 0 games this year, which there's usually not very many, so that's exciting. There's some actually really good Thursday, Friday games of week 1. Really and a lot of times you might get one. Yeah. Well, I think that there used to be some really good Thursday games, but then Friday was kind of an egg. But this year it feels like it's kind of spread out with some good ones on Thursday and Friday. So that'll be very fun. So, but yeah, it's exciting for the season to start. But all right. Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out The Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. I'm Jaron. Check out my work on Athlon Sports. That's Landon. Follow us, Locked On Mississippi State. We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. We're back to posting daily videos Monday through Friday. I didn't think I was going to be able to, on Monday's episode, post videos, but I did. So they're all there. Some short little clippings. Also, hit that like, subscribe, ring the bell on YouTube. So we can, obviously keep growing this channel. We want to hit our 1,000 goal during the season, early in the season at some point. So help us out with that. But yeah, until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.